Welcome to Chandwell. My name's Michael and I've finished numbers 15 to 21 Station Road on my N-scale model of a rundown West Yorkshire town, set in 1993. This model was a real slog. It felt as though anything that could go wrong with it did go wrong with it, and you might even remember that at one point I squashed my first attempt. But thankfully, after a pause of about 3 months while I concentrated on my building of Bradford Cathedral, I've finally finished it. It's bedded in on the layout and I can finally forget all about it. In this video, I'm going to show you the steps I took to get it finished off, get it bedded into the layout and some of the details that I added. So let's take a look. The building is based on Brook Street in Ilkley, and whilst the frontage is beautiful Edwardian elegance, the rear tells a different story. It's 3 stories round the front, but the back is anyone's guess. The windows look like they've been chucked onto the building wherever they will stick. There seems to be 4 stories round here, with columns of windows at the half-story positions as well. Extensions stick out the back in multiple layers. Pipework covers the whole thing at jaunty angles. I can't make much sense of it. It's absolutely wonderful. I wanted to reproduce some of this atmosphere on Chandwell, so I started with the extensions round the back. I don't have much space between the rear of the building and Station Alley, so 1 layer of extensions was enough. I drew them in Inkscape, making each one the correct depth for the amount of space that I had. I decided to model one with a cellar window and a smaller extension. With the drawing done, I printed the outline of the parts onto sticky label. I stuck the roof parts onto 0.5mm card and the walls to 1mm. I cut out basic shapes from the thicker card with my big knife, as it goes through the card much easier than the finer scalpel does. I use the scalpel on the window apertures, and I'm left with a stack of bits. These simply go together like this. I use PVA glue and I check for squareness using a scale model scenery right angle jig. I use the offcuts of the window apertures to help keep everything square. The roof parts go on the same way with PVA glue. Fine adjustments can be done with the tweezers whilst the glue is still wet. PVA is really forgiving and allows you plenty of time to wiggle things into the right place. Texture is from scale scenes as usual, and I print it into the right shape to save on ink and wastage. For little buildings like this, I tend to print the texture in a single piece and just score, fold and wrap around the building, like this. I print the lintels into the texture as these need to be flush with the stonework, but I add the sills later so they sit slightly proud. I don't pre-cut the window apertures. I just tightly wrap the texture around using PVA glue. Once the glue is set enough, which is about 3 minutes, I can slice down the window apertures and tightly wrap the texture around the walls. Each extension is designed to be at a different height on the back of the street as it descends the hill. And I designed the doors to be above street height as I thought stepped access from the back street would look interesting. I printed an arrangement guide and used that to precisely glue the extensions together. The subtly different depths can be appreciated here. We'll see that guide again later. I had a lot of bits to tile, so I printed one section with cutting guidelines for later. The scale scene's texture is designed to be cut into strips and carefully overlapped to give a 3D feel to the roof. Something like this. It's really effective, and once cut out, I had all the roof parts. I used sticky labels on waste chocolate box lid acetate to make my windows. I just stick, slice and peel. In place the effect is really good. I made a bit of a mess of this sill though, didn't I? I fiddled with it and made it look worse. But from a typical viewing angle, you're never going to notice. It's really important not to get too bogged down in the little tiny details that people won't ever notice. It sometimes hurts and sometimes you're looking for perfection, but honestly, once it's on the layout, no one will ever see that, so don't get distracted by the little mistakes. With the scale scene's doors added, it was time to stick the extensions to the building. I used the same jig as before to help me get the extensions in the right place on the building. Like this. I need to work on my whipping the tablecloth away routine, don't I? Using a ruler to do it properly, I carefully stuck the extension to the building with PVA glue. I took care when arranging the texture so that all the stone courses would line up, and it was nice to see that here. I used tiny wiggles to get it lined up as perfectly as possible, and this gives the impression that the extension was built at the same time as the main building. I used watercolour paint to make the edge of a bit of 0.5mm card black. I used the tiniest possible slices of card to act as a support and add it with a pin to the front of the building. And then I add a thin slice of the black edged card onto these to represent the front downspout. With the downspouts all done, it was time to add to the layout. with the heights checked, double checked and triple checked, I got out my Oohoo glue. I hate Oohoo, it's a complete stringy nightmare of a product, but it's great to give a quick bond when fine-tuning the position of a building like this. To get it stuck well, I added glue to the baseboard and the edges of the road and the lane, and then I gently placed the building into it, tweaking it as I went. It needs to be straight and level, and tiny adjustments can be made until the glue sets. But oh no, I completely forgot about the property with the cellar. There's a gaping hole round here, and that'll be a nightmare to fill in as it's incredibly difficult to access. Ah well, this building has been riddled with errors like that. All we can do is laugh and carry on. I make steps as simple slices of card, just gluing, cutting and gluing as I go. Once painted, they're simple but effective. I use tiny pieces of paper all glued together to give me a template for the pavement. I glue it to 0.5mm card and cut it out. Test fit, not quite right here. But I incorporate the adjustments I need into the template and then draw around it onto 1mm card. I use printed curves to help me get the curved edge the right shape, stick them into position and then cut round them with a scalpel. The texture goes on top of the card. I didn't print it exactly the right shape, so I applied it in 2 pieces, taking care to get the join as straight as possible. I cut slices into the curved part of the curb and then fold these around the curve into the PVA glue. I trim away the edges and I'm left with a piece of pavement that can be added to the front of the building. It simply slides into place and presses down into, you guessed it, a bed of PVA glue. I added final details. The steps around the side needed filing on one side so that they're level on the sloping ground. I added weeds here and there. And I managed to use a couple of bits of card to cover the huge hole and put a wall in front. I think that's worked out alright. You may remember that when I decided to extend the kebab shop front, I had to cut away some of the road. This meant I had some double yellow lines curving away into the pavement. I mixed some paint, blue, black, white, to make a shade the same as the scale scene's tarmac, and then I just gently painted away the offending double yellow lines. To try and give some reason for the lines disappearing partway along the road, I added a darker patch with paint to represent a newly laid piece of tarmac. I think the results are okay, it looks decent enough from a typical viewing angle. I completed the scene with my usual terrible chimney pots made of cocktail stick and painted brown. Did you see my video the other week about 6 Railway Terrace, the childhood home of Liam Thistles? Well, one man who did was Jeffrey, and he sent me some pictures of a version of 6 Railway Terrace that he made in 00 scale. Take a look at this. Isn't this amazing? It's double the scale of N scale, which means it's 8 times the volume. I can really appreciate the extra detail that you can get in that scale. It looks so crisp, and I love the backyard detail. It's nice to see that the edge-on bit of black card technique for gutters and downspouts works even in this larger scale. Round the front there's even some Liam Thistles graffiti, using a picture of me as Liam. That's excellent. Thank you, Jeffrey. I absolutely love that I inspired you to have a go and make a 6 Railway Terrace, and I'm absolutely honoured, I think, to have a picture of me somewhere on your layout, wherever that might be. So thank you very much. I love it when I inspire folks to do things like that. I'm going back to make the cathedral next, so I've got a video to make about the making of the nave, which is now complete, so you can watch that. Channel members have been watching the development of that in my weekly channel members only videos. If you'd like to become a channel member, then please do consider it, as it's a great way to support the channel and it's a great way to also find out what's going on behind the scenes. There's details in the description of this video. So next week's video is about the nave of the cathedral and then going on to build a tower, and then after that I'm moving on down Station Road. So there's plenty more to come. So for now, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, take care and I'll see you then.